And Mr. Mohan, I did Mohan, and it just started that conversation. So this is the fastest project we've done in my life.
Really?
1 year from idea to
Fastest? For you? Then that makes me feel even better. I need to get a new suit. This is amazing for you. I think you guys are fast. Oh, that's... So I'll reach out to you to write it down. Speed. Showing the
yes, so we have to get all of these nuggets and anecdotes out. Hello and welcome to this special CNBC TV 18 Davos Dialogue, Davos Debate. I'm Shri Nara and we're coming to you from the Andhra Pradesh Pavilion at the Belvedere Hotel. This has of course been home to Andhra Pradesh as it showcases its story to the world here in Davos. Leading the conversation has been Nara Lokesh, the Minister for IT, and of course he holds many other portfolios, but if I go down that road we'll take up a lot of time of the panel. So without further ado, let's talk about what the state is attempting to do. It has, of course, solidified its purpose as far as ease of doing business is concerned, but it now wants to transition to speed of doing business. What does that mean, and what measures are we going to see the state government take to ensure it delivers on that promise? I also have with me an eminent set of panelists who will talk to me about their aspirations and their investment plans for the state as well as for India. So without further ado, in our last conversation, Mr. Lokesh, you talked about the fact that there's a WhatsApp group that you might even set up to get investors to talk to you directly in terms of speeding things up. So have they been on the WhatsApp group already?
I think two of the panelists have my number and they're in touch with me directly.
So it's government on WhatsApp and governance by WhatsApp?
Well, it's about rewriting the speed at which India can actually deliver and showing the way to the world. I think India is one of those rare countries where we are able to deliver on speed, which other parts of the world are unable to do. And I believe this is just the beginning. The beauty of our great nation is that if one state starts it, rest will follow it. And I think that's going to put a lot more challenge on us in Andhra Pradesh and to start breaking records every time we take up a new project.
But explain to me the difference, because when one talks about the ease of doing business, one would imagine that the speed of doing business is implicit in that. How will things change now as you move and pivot to the ease of doing business?
So it's actually a very good point, right? Ease of doing business is about getting your permissions, making the entire process a lot more easy. I've started challenging my team on the service level agreements that we have on it. So for example, one of the partner who's here had an environmental clearance to be issued, but the SLA says it's 3 weeks. We got it done in 4 hours. So I believe that this is what we have to challenge every regulation that's out there, look at every SLA and truly deliver on the speed of doing business.
Okay, so how do you go from 3 weeks to 4 hours?
One WhatsApp message from me. So I got to hear we work on strict timelines with all the investors in Andhra Pradesh. We monitor the projects on a weekly basis. So if a project is getting delayed, we try and understand what's the issue, and any feedback is taken positively. Even criticism is welcome, so we take it positively and we work on it. And that's how we were able to get this done in 4 hours.
But, jokes aside, how do you institutionalize the speed of doing business at scale? Because not everybody can be on WhatsApp with you, or not every decision can be taken on WhatsApp by you. So how do you institutionalize speed at scale?
I think it requires a fundamental cultural shift across, in politics, in the bureaucracy. So we are doing that. So we, from our chief minister up to your VRO, we are all talking about on speed of doing business. So not the SMEs, all of them cannot reach out to me or be in touch with me, but we want to create an environment, a culture to deliver on that. That's one part. Second is the regulatory framework. So we have now formed a group which is being advised by self-made billionaires who are giving me input on which regulation, how do we go about it, how do we streamline it, and how can we truncate the time it takes for each of this, permissions and so on and so forth. And what are the permissions that we don't even need? Why does, for example, an IT company really need a pollution control board clearance, for crying out loud? So we're going to now look at each and every regulatory framework that's there in the state, and we're going to challenge the entire team, the bureaucracy, to come back and tell us why should it even be there.
So deregulation, essentially.
Yes.
A big move on that.
Big move on that.
Sanjay, let me come to you, because your investment into the state of Andhra Pradesh made headlines with that big $15 billion announcement. How long did it take for you to make that decision, A, to go to Andhra Pradesh, and B, to get things done in Andhra Pradesh?
Yeah, I think before I answer that, let me just start by saying I'm really delighted to be here on this panel, and good to see you again, Shireen. I think first I would start and say that we have been deeply committed to India as Google. I think we started more than 20 years back. And the memory that I carry of that is that 20 years back, internet penetration for women were so low.
Yeah.
And Google did a project called Internet Sati with Tata Trust. Today, the penetration of internet for women in India is almost parity. So I feel proud that we've been committed in a deep manner. And that comes to this $15 billion investment. We have committed even more deeply to this. And I think fundamentally it's 1 gigawatt plus capacity, subsea cables, the biggest project they're doing outside America for the first time. And I must say, I met the Honorable Chief Minister and respected Minister in mid-24. It was a conversation where he laid out, the Honorable Chief Minister laid out the vision, and by mid-25 it was done. It is one of the fastest projects we have done as Google in this region. And I really feel proud it's coming from India and coming from Andhra Pradesh. And I'll build on what Lokesh, you were saying on, I think, 3 themes which I think stand out for me. One is the idea of the way the Honorable Chief Minister defined what we're trying to do is good for Andhra Pradesh, good for India, good for Google. Which means it's a partnership. It's not a contract manufacturing. It's a big shift in the mindset, how we approach it. Second, I think, is very data-led decision-making, which is transparency. You know exactly what's happening. And third thing in my mind, which is what you just said, speed. This speed of moving things is the fastest I've seen. So I really acknowledge that and thank you, and delighted to not only do this, but even do more as we move in the future.
Well, speaking of doing more, you preempted my question, Sanjay, because as India sort of takes the next steps as far as its AI journey is concerned, data center capacity in India much lower than the US or even China. What do you believe it will take for the AI infrastructure build out to be a reality in India? And companies like yours, I mean, how much more appetite do you have for India?
I think the reality is we have more than 1 billion Indians. The power of AI today is that the language barrier is gone. So far, the use of technology was limited by, if you knew English language well, you could use technology. But hardly 200 million people understand and speak English. So I see India moving from 200 million people deeply using technology to almost 1.4 billion people using technology. Because there is no barrier of language, there is no barrier of literacy. You can speak, text, video, whatever format that you want to engage in. So it's going to be a dramatic increase. And what excites me, therefore, is that what we have built here will need to keep evaluating how fast to build more. And I feel from my point of view, India is really best suited to take the next leap as AI comes in, because we are really good in applying the models and technology for both the benefit of society and customers.
Okay, I'll come back and double down on that in just a second. But Jatin, let me come to you now. It's not just ease of doing business and speed of doing business, but it's also the cost of doing business. And that is something that the state has been focusing on, specifically for the IT sector. Land at 1 rupee, that also created headlines. And I want you to explain to us why that is important and why companies like yours are looking at the state.
Sure. So, a few things, apart from the speed and ease, I think certainty and trust also matter. And certainty and trust comes from your ability to access the entire infrastructure of the state transparently, as Sanjay was mentioning, and you have comfort that when you have a fair cause, you will see a fair response. And I think that's a big comfort, that you throw a ball and then it will bounce back. It's not going to get lost. It's not going to get muddled in some other controversy, etc. We believe that we are at a cusp of rebirth of IT services industry. I think AI in our lifetime, I as a professional and many others like me, I think this is the second industrial revolution that the IT services industry is seeing in one generation, right? I started when Y2K started, and I now have AI, which is in my view another 25 years of journey for IT services, plus operations, plus intellectual work, everything that India can produce and deliver to the world. So we will no longer be the services hub. I think we will be the intellectual hub for the world. And to do that, you will have to now look at where you want to be next 25 years. And when we started thinking about it, I mean, Vizag came on the top of every consideration we had. We had our own checklist of things, of excess of talent. I mean, we have incredible excess of Vizag talent in rest of the southern belt of India. And if so, why not Vizag to start with? And that's where we invested. So I think, and we got very, very warm and comprehensive response from Honorable Minister, Honorable Chief Minister, and therefore we went ahead. So we feel very energized now, and Vizag is one step as we are taking. I would say one thing: we have a 6 months plan on how we are going to grow in the state. So which tells you something, how ambitious we are.
Well, I just want to bring up the point that you made about the fact that the next 25 years will see a transformation of the Indian IT services sector. And this has been a sector that's been a huge generator as far as, export earnings are concerned. It's also been a big employer in India. As we transition to more AI-led, what is the expectation that the private sector has from industry, especially when we talk about talent? I mean, that is the single biggest competitive advantage that people talk of when they talk of India. How do we ensure that we are talent ready for this AI world? And what is the industry, private sector collaboration on that front that's needed?
So I think the core of talent and intellectual capital is India's demographic dividend, right? I mean, that's the core. Now, what you do as an industry like us is you work with education ministry, you work with colleges. We work with another roughly 120 colleges where we influence the syllabus in last 2 years of this. We have initiative like Synapse, which has nothing to do with Cognizant. We just want to impart right technology knowledge, which is market facing today, not yesterday's market facing. And we have done 1 million coverage in that in last 3 years. And we have now taken an ambitious goal to get to 2 million of such training. So, so it is a great opportunity. I think I always say that there is a valley of skepticism before there is a climb of hope. And in AI, we are a little bit in that space before we see the climb of hope. We certainly see it from our vantage point, how thousands of things today India doesn't do, India would be able to do from services standpoint with help of AI. And Sanjay alluded some of that too. So we are very excited, and I think our population and our young engineers are getting ready for it.
Well, Soketa, that's a good point for me to get to you, because in Jatin's words, skepticism before we get to hope. That's also the perception when we talk about manufacturing and large-scale transitioning to manufacturing, because people believe that that's already a space that China has occupied. There's a whole bunch of other countries that have taken what has moved out of China, and India is, of course, one of them. How do we build on that story? What do states like Andhra Pradesh need to do to continue to draw in investments from the rejigging of supply chains that's going on, from the resilience point of view as far as supply chains as well?
That's a great question, and I'll start with resilience is table stakes. It is not an option anymore. And speed is the last strategic advantage left for firms. So in a few months, there'll be a book from HBR that I'm working through, and we call it Intelligent Speed at Scale. And there is a simple formula, and India is a math-driven country, so I'll give you the formula. It is the speed of insight multiplied by the speed of decision multiplied by the speed of action. Now, the reason it is multiplied is because if one of them is 0, the value is 0. And companies have been working through that, and what we found is countries and companies that follow this have a disproportionate market value. Now, as you think about industrial manufacturing, the big question is operational sovereignty. If I do something, and right before we came out here, had a nice conversation that said, do I own my data or does it live somewhere else? It can be a big challenge. The second piece is technology is core part of manufacturing. And if my processes cannot be designed in one place and used all over the world, I run into issues. And I'll give you an example. A client of ours has a facility in China, 400 million of revenue created. They have 210 people, 10 people on the line, 200 running AI. The same factory at a different northern hemisphere location has 1,000 people, 10 people are writing reports, and the other 990 are on the line. What we want to be, if India is going to drive this, is on the 210 side, not on the 1,000 side. And that is the structural difference, both on the speed side as well as taking advantage.
Well, that's an important point that you make, and how do we prepare to make that transition and be ready for that is the question. But Sumant, let's address the energy question as well, and the state of Andhra Pradesh is also trying to address that question through renewable means. But, as we aspire for this 8% growth, as we aspire to become a $10 trillion economy, we will, of course, get to a $4 trillion economy shortly. How we need to think differently in terms of our energy mix as well, and what the imperatives are for states like Andhra Pradesh.
Yeah, thank you, Shireen. Let me first comment a little bit about my own or our company's experience in Andhra Pradesh. We had not a very good time a few years ago, but I think when the current Chief Minister came in along with Lokesh, things just changed totally for us. The kind of responsiveness, the kind of welcome that they sort of gave us was so remarkably different from what we had been experiencing until that point in time, that it sort of totally changed our minds about the state, even though going into it we were quite skeptical because of our prior experience. And there were 2-3 things that happened, which I think goes to the way in which the current dispensation operates. One is that they came to us and they said, why don't you make Andhra Pradesh your home state? Right now we are based in Delhi. You don't have a lot of renewable energy capacity in Delhi or Haryana, obviously, right? So that can't be our home state. And that thought really appealed to me. It really resonated strongly with me. And I thought, Andhra has a lot of good natural resource. What it did not have was enlightened leadership, which it now has. And why should we therefore not think about exactly what they were telling us? And it took us a little bit of time to come sort of to accept that premise. But I think the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. And that's why we decided to put in all our chips into Andhra in a way, right? And I give full marks to both Lokesh and to the Honorable Chief Minister for that. The second thing is accessibility was phenomenal. Lokesh gave me his number. I'm in touch with him, and he, when you talk about speed, he responds very fast. So if you message him, he responds back to you definitely before the end of the day.
Are you using an agent, by the way, or are you actually responding to messages yourself?
So that's a good point. I'll sort of try to give a very difficult, complex message the next time, which may require some personal intervention. And then I'll get back to you and let you know what happens. But that is the second thing. The accessibility was really very good. And that's unusual in India. It's not very common. The third thing was not just the speed of responding to WhatsApp messages, but the speed of decision making. I think that was something that was also quite remarkable. And it's a very flat hierarchy. You talk to Lokesh, you talk to the Honorable Chief Minister, and you're pretty much, the decision gets made. And of course, it has to then be implemented, and all the proper documentation has to be done, and everything has to be checked out. But obviously, when the political side is pushing so hard, then the bureaucracy also tends to tends to, not always, but tends to fall in line as much as possible. So I think our experience, therefore, has been very positive. And that's why, we were looking to set up our ingot wafer line and for solar manufacturing. And we talked to many states, and many states are actually very unhappy with us for having gone to Andhra Pradesh, which I find is it's good for us when we go to Andhra Pradesh, but it's bad for us when we go to almost any other state now, because actually there's such competition now between the different states. It's actually quite interesting. So I think that's been our experience. The land has been allocated. We're now going to lay the foundation stone and get moving forward. And we're looking at what else we can do in the state. So I think that's really not answering your question.
No, but I think you actually raised a very important point, because I think that's a relevant point, especially for people who are looking at investing in India as fresh investments, or even people who are looking at incremental investments. Policy continuity, tax certainty, policy predictability, political continuity as well. Decisions that you may have taken may get overturned by another government, by another dispensation, as was the case with Sumant. In this case, it actually worked to his advantage. But, how do you allay those apprehensions? How do you allay some of those concerns that investors may have?
I mean, that is a challenge for the entire political system. I mean, if you look at it globally, to be fair, I think the Indian political system definitely looks a lot better. Saying that, I believe that there's greater maturity now coming in, and it requires greater discussion. But behind, all the investments, we're talking about, X amount of dollars or Y amount of land that's required. But the most fundamental point is the number of jobs we're going to create. And that is the narrative that this time around, as a state, we're very focused upon. It's important to explain to people that what's the impact that each of these investments will have and the kind of jobs it's going to create. So you create a very strong momentum so that things cannot be overturned. Yes, things have been reversed in the past, but I believe it's been an isolated incident for Andhra Pradesh in one administration. But look at it. Look at Hyderabad. What are the foundations that Mr. Naidu laid in '94 have been continued. And look at the city today. Look at the state today. It has the highest per capita income in India. Because the narrative was set. So it's equally important for the politicians to not just look at this from an investment perspective, but also build a narrative so strong that whoever comes, I believe that there'll never be a change in Andhra Pradesh. India will be governing Andhra Pradesh for the foreseeable future. Saying that it's important to ensure that a strong narrative is there and we are able to convince people at every point as we go forward.
And that's an important point that you make. So I just want to build a little bit on this narrative that you want to build on the back of the jobs that these investments will create. What's part of that package? Jobs, of course, will be one pillar, but what's part of the package that you're going to be communicating? Not just domestically, but internationally as well.
No, see, as a state, we have a clear direction, right? We have the Swarnandhra mission, which is where we see Andhra Pradesh in 2047. So we have clear targets, we have clear sectors. We just spoke about manufacturing and the importance of, speed in manufacturing. I also believe that the way we have looked at it is a cluster-based approach. I've had opportunity to share that with you. And that's where we are working with Renew, and they've been supporting our initiative on a rapid prototyping center, which we want to bring in from Sydney and bring it into their ecosystem. So we are working on a very cluster-based approach where there's a tight integration between verticals and horizontals. Horizontal is education, certification, and so on and so forth. Verticals are all the different components and the players who are there who make up the entire ecosystem, which I truly believe is missing in India as we speak. And that's why we are struggling with manufacturing. We are not at the pace at which we should be as a nation. And I believe the experiment that we are doing in Andhra Pradesh could be a model that can be replicated in India.
Sanjay, I want to go back to the point that was just being made there by Lokesh about jobs and the importance of tying that up to the narrative of drawing in investments. There's a lot of concern around AI and what AI could do to jobs, but equally there's there's optimism around the kinds of new jobs that AI could perhaps create. We've seen that happen with YouTube. We've seen a whole creator economy blossom on account of the opportunities that has thrown up. But as we ready ourselves for this AI future, what will the imperatives be from your standpoint that we need to focus on, states like Andhra Pradesh, other states, India needs to focus on?
I think that's a good point. Before I get there, I just want to answer one question which Sumanta raised, or the point there. He has Lokesh's number, I don't. But still,
I'm going to get you to start a WhatsApp group now.
The speed is still the same. I think the point is, I think the governance is working because of transparency and commitment to get investment going. And that's a good point in favor of what Andhra is able to pull off. To come back to your question, it's such an important point what Lokesh made and you made. I think AI needs to be deployed not only for business productivity, but for governance in the state. And I think that's an important thing we shouldn't lose sight of. And what do people want in society? They want good governance, they want jobs, they want better incomes. And I feel AI-powered governance is the really way forward. And I have 4 themes around there, which I'll call AI-powered, what I call SEVA. The S stand for Sarkar. Run a better Sarkar. I think RGTS is a good example of what you do in Andhra, but I think to me that needs to become for every person in the state. Everybody should see I can reach out even without having a number, get my problem solved and find the right information. Second is E, which is e-safety or e-security. The biggest issue in the future would be that will be the challenges on cybersecurity and information and data. How do you ensure that AI is used to power that? The third is W, which is workforce. We need to have AI-ready workforce. We need to get our young children to use AI from a young age and teachers, so that we have that workforce ready from 5 years and 10 years from now. And third is what I call A is agriculture, health, mobility, but transform all these. Because we can improve productivity of agriculture using AI. We can transform health using AI. We can transform mobility using AI or urban development using AI. So I feel we need to get ready together as basically whether it is people who are creating applications or people like us or governance to do AI Seva, to really make a difference. If society is happy, if people are happy, if I earn more money, then I'm willing to believe and invest more time and energy.
No, absolutely. That's a great point that you make. Technology for the sake of technology has no purpose. It has to be put to use for people. I'm going to get wrap-up comments from each one of you. And Jatin, let me start by asking you, since we're talking about the fast lane, investing at the speed of growth, you're a numbers man. So what is the one number that we should focus on from the state's point of view that they should get done?
From state's point of view, not from cognizant point of view?
Both. It could be cognizant and what cognizant can do for the state.
I think jobs is one thing, but I would say slightly differently. I think, as I mentioned, rebirth of services. I think what we should see is what we are getting to Vizag in terms of different services, newer services, which can run for another 25 years, which can create next set of entrepreneurs and next set of professionals that IT services creators started from here. So I think the key is not so much quantitative to your question, but qualitatively why the new services should come to Vizag. And I'll just take one more minute. The fear of, I can assure you people sitting in this room and watching that, take this fear of jobs around AI out. We have been here when package implementation first came, people said, you are doing all application development. If now there is SAP Oracle, who will come to you? When cloud came, we were managing millions of network elements, databases, and servers on premise. People said, who will come to you now for infrastructure management? Now it's cloud. So why AI should be different? Let's just take on. We have built an industry which has grown every year for the last 25 years. AI, I'm telling you, is a rebirth. It's a rejuvenation of the industry that we want to bank on.
Well, so don't get carried away by the obituaries that are being written on account of AI, of many sectors and many jobs and tasks. So Ketu, your prescription for the road ahead.
I think the simple prescription is, I think Lokesh said something really important. How do you build the ecosystem that can deliver on a particular vertical? So let me give you an example. I can go to Shenzhen and design a drone, get the software for it, scale it up, and launch it in 4 weeks or less. So the first thing is to decide which areas are you going to compete on. Now, what does it require? I'm a supply chain guy, so it's a pretty boring business. We go all the way from product design to planning to distribution to assembly to energy, and bring it all together. And then the last most important thing is talent. There is no shortage of talent in India right now. But the other areas, you have to decide that I'm going after this sector and I'm going to reduce the time. I would say anything that takes longer than 12 weeks to execute is too long. What used to be years is months. What used to be months is weeks. And what used to be weeks, Google has, I think they've changed the time clock. It's what, milliseconds, nano? I don't know what they did, but it runs faster. So those are what I would call strategic choices to make if you're going to take advantage of what you have. And we have seen it consistently that if you do that, the payoff is non-trivial. It's not a linear payoff model. It's an exponential payoff model. But
Sumant?
It's a choice.
It is a choice. You're absolutely right.
Look, my suggestion would be that while industry is coming in, ecosystem is being created, etc. That's all, of course, terrific. It's very critical. We need to have faster GDP growth, but the GDP growth also needs to be inclusive, and we need to make sure that we take people along. And I think that is critical because to build a great state takes time, takes multiple election cycles, which all have to be won as well. And so people have to see the tangible benefit of all the stuff that is going on. I think that is very critical. And I think the Honorable Prime Minister has been very good at that in our sector, for example, by coming out with the PM Kusum scheme, which deals with the farmers, by the rooftop scheme, which therefore touches every individual. So I think that is something that I'm sure that Lokesh and the Honorable Chief Minister are thinking about. But I think that is really critical because as your previous question was, how do you ensure continuity?
Yeah.
This is one way to ensure that continuity. And I think that is critical because all of us make long-term decisions.
Yes, long-term decisions indeed, and ones that have to be strategic and smart. Lokesh, I'll give you the final word then. If we are going to head on to the fast lane, where are we today in terms of which gear you believe the government is at and which gear would you like to be and how soon can you get to that?
Before I answer your question, I think what Sumanji said is a very, very important point. And that's where CM came out with this P4 program. So in the past we had P3, a private-public partnership. Now add people to it.
Yeah.
Look at any developed country, right? The gap between the haves and have-nots just growing. And that's where we believe that all of us have a greater role to play, a greater commitment to society. It's part of our Indian culture. It's not simply about giving a handout, but it's about counseling, guiding, nurturing those aspirations and pulling people out of the cycle of poverty. Generally we see a trend where, I made X amount of money, I want to give this much money back. Yes, that is important, but more important is people committing time to pull people out of that cycle. So that's something that we are pioneering in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and it's a passion project again for our Chief Minister, Mr. Naidu. So as a state, coming back to your question, I believe we are still in second gear. I don't believe we are in the sixth gear. I see that my secretary has walked out on me now. But I believe this is the beginning. This is the new India. I believe that India can show the way. I believe that India can lead in clear sectors. And if India has to lead, states have to lead. And states like Andhra Pradesh have a very, very important role to play. And I keep telling my entire team, the group of ministers which I chair, that there is, if no risk, no reward and no story. We heard 3 stories today, and all this happened in 18 months because all of us together decided to challenge what the norm is. So that is the new Andhra Pradesh.
So 5 years on, what would the Andhra Pradesh story look like?
So the aspiration, so we have about 1,000 projects in pipeline now, and our focus, as all the leaders on the dais have said, is to focus on execution. This, we believe, will actually take us to the $500 billion mark in terms of GDP. So that is what I believe the true outcome by which we want to measure ourselves. And again, just to go back, as Sinaji has said, it's important now to look at whether these fruits of these outcomes are actually translating down all the way to the farmer, to the housewife who's taking care of the house really well. We have to ensure that this translates to them. It creates improves the quality of living and improves the per capita income.
Well, thank you very much to each one of you for sharing your individual stories, but more importantly, sharing the roadmap that you believe that India and the state of Andhra Pradesh must take forward to ensure that we see faster growth, we see better quality of growth, and we see more secular and inclusive growth. And as must have been very evident here, I am going to start a WhatsApp group. I shall be the admin. I shall be the admin of that group, at least as far as this particular panel is concerned, and maybe see more stories flourish, not just in the state of Andhra Pradesh, but of course in India. From all of us here, from Davos, from the Davos Dialogue and the Davos Debate, many thanks for watching. Stay tuned to CNBC TV 18. We'll be right back with you. The news continues.